that on these islands, paths must not cross. Well,
It's very impressive to me that you were able to do this while also balancing a full-time job. What was it like trying to manage your time to keep up with this?
Good question.
Thank you so much for tuning in for the newest installment of Diving Indie. We were thrilled to invite Christopher of Hallgrim Games in to talk about Puzzle Pelago from concept to creation. We discussed how hard it is to create puzzles from scratch and what he'd do differently next time he makes a game. If you like what you hear, I hope you'll subscribe and drop a like. Enjoy, we're diving in. Hello.
Hi, Fitz.
Hi, long time no talk.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christopher, the developer of Puzzle Pelago. And so Puzzle Pelago was my first commercial game project. I've been doing a lot of hobby type game development, and at some point just thought, hey, why not go for it and try doing it professionally and produce a game that I can sell, ideally make money and live off of it, but it's not that easy to do. And so here we are.
I'm still finalizing things, but I wanted to see you. Yay! And where exactly are you from again? You said you're from Germany?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, exactly. I am from Germany, Berlin, Germany.
Cool. Have you
Born
always
here.
lived there? You got the accent, so I figured.
Yeah, you can hear that probably. Yeah.
No, I mean, no issue with it at all. I've gotten to go to Germany once. I would love to go back. It was a very brief thing during a study abroad trip, and we only got,
Cool.
stopped in Berlin, and that was pretty much it. And then they were like, all right, off to the next place. We did a bus ride around. It was great, but like I said, it was definitely very brief. Not enough time.
See, and I've been actually on a short trip to Oklahoma, USA.
Oh, of all states, you had to go to Oklahoma.
Of all states.
I'm so sorry.
It was for a science conference.
Oh, cool.
Also very, very brief stay.
Right, look at you. You've been all over the place, and I'm like, I was Germany once. I've been a few places in Europe, right? But
that's the thing about Americans and Canadians. Whenever I meet Americans or Canadians, it's like they usually have been to more European countries than I have. It's crazy.
Really?
So I visited Europe, and so where did you go? Well, there was this town in France, and then Italy and Spain. And it's like, what?
Wow, that's so interesting, because I feel like I hear, when we were going on the study abroad, we were excited because it's pretty cheap and quick to get around. So every weekend we went to a different country, and so it's kind of funny to think that. But at the same time, I live 30 minutes outside of Washington D.C. and I hate going there. Frankly, I'm like, it's here. It's less exciting. So
you never visit you never do the sightseeing of the stuff that you have access to.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's the fun in that, right?
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I have been really thrilled to do this. And do you prefer to go by Christopher or Chris? Which would you prefer?
Christopher. Yeah, I'm not really used to. Chris is fine. People call me Chris sometimes. It's fine either way.
You're all good. Well, I really appreciate you spending your time with us. And like we've discussed, I have a lot of questions for you. So I figure we can just dive in. And just to start out, how about you tell me a little bit, maybe tell me first question, what's your favorite video game? Before you did all this, what was your favorite game? I know, I'm coming out with the heavy hitters right at the front.
Yeah,
you can
I
do
can
a
tell.
couple if you can't pick, because
it's really hard because I'm going to say 5 games, and when the stream is over, I'm like, no, that's the wrong one. Actually, you were talking about Animal Crossing before.
Yeah.
I'm playing that at the moment, which is really, really cool. So at the moment, I'm more into less cognitively difficult like strategy. I used to play a lot of strategy games like
Okay, nice.
StarCraft and Civilization, and
Yes.
but right now I'm more in like Animal Crossing, which is nice and peaceful, and I've been playing Slime Rancher with my girlfriend actually.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, which is really fun game where you're transferring slimes from or like stuff from place A to place B all the time.
Right.
You don't do a lot, but it's still a really cool game design. And,
Definitely. I get
Yeah,
the
but-
sense we like similar games just based off of this already.
Yeah, so in general, I think like the main genre I like is probably going to be turn-based strategy games like XCOM and Civilization. But it always depends. It's a cool thing
Yeah.
about games is games can serve all kinds of different needs, and right now I'm more for like all the relaxing stuff.
Yeah.
And
I hear ya.
Yeah.
It's something I don't know about y'all over there, but for some reason right now I'm just like I don't know. For me, I think I've gotten to the end of my rope with the pandemic where I keep thinking to myself, "Oh, we're used to it by now." But like, really, I don't think any of us are really used to it. And my brain's just been dead lately, so
yeah,
I really relate. I like throw up a TV show, I pull up my game, and I just sort of veg for an hour straight half the time.
actually, yeah, it's a good point because what I also do is, for example, Slime Rancher and Animal Crossing are excellent games to just listen to podcasts to, which is like because I love podcasts, but it's really hard to, for example, when you're coding, you can't listen to a podcast, right?
Right.
Also, like I don't know, grocery shopping, it's really distracting. But if you want to make time to listen to a good podcast, it's perfect to have some game to play along with it that is not too difficult.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Because especially like I used to like drive and listen to podcasts, but I don't really have
Mhm.
reasons now. So that's actually a really good idea because I have a lot of podcasts I listen to. So, all right, we've already got advice, and it's still game related. Nice. So, what is it that kind of put you on the path to make your own game? Where did that what happened for you that put you down that direction?
Ooh, I was born to do this. No, it's a really long story. I think the first time I wanted to make games was when I played Sonic 3 as like a, I don't know, 7 or 8-year-old or something, like a long time ago.
Yeah. Huh.
But more recently, when I was working in university, sometimes when I was on vacation, I would just say like, I used to do a lot of game development stuff in high school, and that was really cool. But now I don't have time for it. Why don't I check out like Unity as a game engine, for example?
Oh, okay. So
And-
Puzzle Pelago was Unity then?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And so I made some prototypes, played around, and I enjoyed it so much. Then when I had to go back to work, it was like, oh no, now I have to do something that is way less cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so at some point, I got the opportunity to get a job where I could work part-time. And that was for me the signal to like, oh my God, I can maybe use some like 1 day per week to make my own game, maybe
Yeah.
like sell the game. And so then I had to choose like what kind of game can I make with
Right.
this really slim time budget. And also I'm not super experienced. I've done tons of stuff as a hobby, but I've never worked in a game company on any like commercial projects or anything like this. And yeah, so long story short, then Puzzle Pelago was like
Yeah.
an ideal project.
Yeah, I mean I really love it. It has a super minimalistic but really sleek style that is just it's really pleasing to play. Like, and I gotta say, I love the little rhyming of the
Really?
tutorial. I didn't actually catch it when I was playing it by myself because I'm the person who's like, I'll figure it out. But when I was playing it on stream on Tuesday, I was like, wait a second. This whole thing has been rhyming and I just ignored it. But
Oh man.
no, I love it. How did you get your idea for Puzzle Pelago as a whole? Like what what made you decide that this is the kind of good direction and that you wanted to make a puzzler?
So I knew I was going to have a limited time budget, like 1 day per week, and that I don't have a lot of experience with
Right.
game development. And so I was looking for something where the game design wasn't over the top complicated, because when you have a really complex game that you want to make, usually, from what I've heard, you iterate a lot, and I couldn't really afford to do that. So my approach was to take some relatively simple game design. And so Puzzle Pelago is based on this genre called number link. I don't know if you've seen this.
I don't think I've heard of that.
There's a lot of games, especially for phones, where you have like a square grid, and you have these numbers, and you always connect the numbers, like for example, two twos, you connect them with a line, and then there's 2 sevens, and lines are not supposed to cross. And I thought, this is actually kind of a fun puzzle, but it's not very difficult. What happens if I change some of those rules? And yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so I think I have one like that. I think it's called Flow on my phone. It's just color dots. Yeah, that's actually really interesting, because now that you mention it, I see how that relates. And a lot of the puzzles, it's okay, well, I can see how I need to do this, but how in the world am I supposed to fit it? With all these trees blocking, and there's one map in particular that really grinds my gears. I figured it out. It took so long, but it's so interesting how you can take such a simple concept and just really sometimes really mess with my brain. How did you create the puzzle levels? To me, that sounds like the hardest thing, to create a bunch of unique puzzles.
You are much smarter than me, because I didn't realize that this was going to be such a difficult process. So when the thing is, when you first come up with a game design, initially I didn't even know if the concept I was thinking up was capable of making hard puzzles. So like the risk was, I create this concept, and I have this cool puzzle idea, but all the puzzles are boring. So you only know that once you start making a lot of puzzles, and especially having other people play them, and getting feedback. And at some point, so I made this really easy to use level editor that allowed me to very quickly like iterate on levels and do everything. But it's very easy to make a game that to make a level that you thought you're making a really difficult level, but then there's this much simpler solution. And so making levels is actually not that easy.
It always impresses me with the generic Sudokus. They can probably have a program to do that. But I can't really make a program for this. You really need a lot of brain power.
It's probably possible.
It'd be hard.
It's not at all obvious how you would do that, though. I'm kind of mad at myself, because it's the kind of thing that, I should probably sit down and try to figure it out, because then you would have infinite levels, which would be awesome.
That'd be wild.
But I've sat down a number of times, and anytime I thought, okay, if I do this, but then because you always have this, like, even automatically finding a solution is quite complex. So all the levels are handmade, and it's also another thing is, once you have a level, judging how difficult is it, like, should this be in the earlier chapters, is this like a tutorial type thing, or is this one of the medium or the advanced difficulty levels?
And that's particularly tricky, because I feel like some of the levels, depending on who's doing it, someone might get it much faster than someone else. Like there are definitely a few where I'd get it quickly, and I'd be like, I can see how this is hard, but for some reason it worked. And there are other ones that I was sitting there for 45 minutes going, I feel dumb by the end of it when I figure it out. And I'm like, wow, I literally just forgot that this is what I needed to do. But it's great. I mean, Super Robot said it best. Maps in Puzzle Pelago can be as nightmarish as they are rewarding when you figure them out, and that's what really gets you through. That's what really makes it a good game, is that at the end you're like, oh yes! Not so much like, oh, finally. Like, it's definitely a good feeling.
It makes me really happy hearing that. It's also very fun to see people like having these moments.
Yeah. We'll have more moments after the interview. I'm planning on playing on stream so people can see me go through the full cycle of, oh, this doesn't look too bad, to, wait a second, why is that tree right there, to, I will never figure it, to thank goodness. That will happen, I'm sure. I have to learn how to make bread after this. I haven't gotten there yet. Well, that's really cool. So it sounds like you already had some background with some of the facets just in your own free time. But what was, outside of what we talked about, what was a big surprise for you as you were working through the process? Something that you didn't really expect that you might have to learn or do during the process? Curveball.
Yeah. There was so much. So the whole goal for me with Puzzle Pelago was it was basically designed to optimize how much I learn from the project. That's why I also created. I wanted to have like the game out on multiple different platforms, like on phones and on PC.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I really underestimated was how much work UI is. That is, I think, a lot of game designers will tell you this, and I kind of knew that it would be the case, but it was still much worse than I anticipated. I spent probably like 10% of the time of just making the game.
Yeah.
It is like the fun things, right? The graphical effects and the interactions and like the game mechanics, and the rest of the time, or maybe let's say 80%, is just making the damn menus look good and animate. And
it really affects when you're playing a game that has bad interfaces. It really impacts the gameplay, so it's good that you did spend that much time, because I can tell you, I have seen indie games where that will completely throw me off for the whole game. It could be a great game, but it just impacts my concept of the game and its quality. It looked really great. Good work, because it was worth it, I think.
Thank you. That's the thing. As soon as I see, I was completely new. I mean, I had done UI before, but not in like a professional, like commercial product. And so, because once you ship something for sale, you kind of want everything to be perfect, and this just getting everything just right is, oh my god. I think in the future I'm going to spend a lot more time trying to automate as much as possible, because I spend so much time hand tweaking all the little like button placements and.
Oh gosh. What's something that you think you could automate? I don't even like. So as someone who doesn't do any game dev, I don't touch code. I don't touch any of the graphics. I just play. To me, I think of automation and I don't understand how it works for this type of game. So what would you do if you could go back again? What do you think would be a practical automation?
Not go back, because one of the main problems was no, seriously, because one of the main problems was that back when I started making Puzzle Pelago, I was working with the version of Unity that would not allow you to. So when you make a game or UI, you usually create these pre-made little basically like game objects that can be a button or a character or whatever, and they're called prefabs. And so I thought, okay, so I just make this one button, and then I place this button in a menu, and at that time, so for my whole UI system to work, I needed the menu to be such a prefab too, and you couldn't, unfortunately, make it in such a way that To make a long story short, back then the tech wasn't there for you to just change one button once, and then it changes everywhere. So anytime I needed to change something for the buttons, I needed to go through all the buttons everywhere, and it was really tedious.
Wow.
Yeah. But now the cool thing is they introduced all these cool new features where you can actually have this, and this is just such a huge time saver.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, that usually in game dev, you can just like you write your game, you can write tools that do certain tasks for you.
Yeah.
And then you can just write a line of code, and then that runs over all your game data and does the stuff for you.
It's intimidating. How long did you work on this project?
So all in all, I think so. It's not 100% done yet. So the actually free content update. So I still, so I've kind of delayed the update. So there's a update 1.1 coming out for Steam soon. That was going to add like undo and redo buttons, and you can now. Yeah, it's very handy if you accidentally like right click the wrong building. Yeah.
Oh man.
And so the first release took about 1 year. So I spent 1 year until I released on iOS. Then the following year I created versions for the iPad and for Android and for Steam. So that was basically like 2 years after I started. It was out on Steam, and now it's another year has passed, and I think I should move on to the next game already. But yeah, there's another content update coming with about like 15-20 new levels, like 2 new chapters.
Awesome.
And yeah.
Well, that's really cool.
Might take a while, but
well, I mean,
I actually have this whole like board with like version 1.2 and 1.3, and there's like new features and everything. But yeah, I think I'm going to wait. So in order to make money, I think I need more games in the stores.
That makes sense.
And at some point I want to return and add some more mechanics. Level editor would be really cool. Level sharing is something I really want, but I have to see.
That would be really cool. That sounds complex. That's a whole other online feature that you don't really have anything for, right?
What do you mean?
Like there's no real online feature in the game right now. So.
No, right now, exactly. Yeah, that's a completely new. Yeah. But it would be really cool because I really want to see what other people come up with, and like in terms of levels, and it would be much more fun. Like if you finished all the levels in the chapters, to then be able to go, there's like I don't know, these hundreds of levels online, would be really cool. But it's as you said, it's going to be a lot of work and a lot of new stuff I've never done before. So
yeah.
I can't promise anything, unfortunately. It's something that I really want to make, but I think I'm probably going to make at least one smaller game project first. And
okay, yeah. I listen. I get it. I respect it. And now I'm very curious to see what you're gonna come up with. But I don't know. Do you have any ideas right now? Are we allowed to get hints, or is everything sort of?
No, I'm not going to give any hints, especially because I don't know for sure. I mean, I might. So I just recently quit my job. And I'm going full time now. So
that's exciting and scary.
It is both of those things. And so I have like a very long list of games that I want to make. And I have one candidate of a longer project that is probably going to be 2 to 3 years.
Wow.
And it would be a strategy game, more in the direction of a strategy game. And that would be really cool. But yeah, I've got some smaller things. It would be really cool to have some smaller games in between because it's really fun. Like the really fun process is always like this completely new game that you made.
Yeah.
And like the game design and cutting down on all the difficult other stuff.
Oh gosh, and there's so much with those strategy games. I see why you put such a long timeline on it, because there's just so much to them, and it's not just figuring out all the little details, but it's also how do all these things interact and how do we make it balanced. Balancing a game,
Oh yeah.
not for me. I don't. That sounds so frustrating. I can just imagine, because no one's gonna get that right on their first try. You know, you gotta work on that.
Exactly. You have to have people play the game and collect data, ideally, and just see is there some enemy that nobody ever defeats and this kind of thing.
Right.
Like what breaks the game balance and
Yeah,
that's true.
Well, that's really cool. And so I believe you said Puzzle Pelago you did just by yourself as a part-time thing. So I imagine you had to wear like a lot of different hats. So are there any parts of the game that you like contracted out or got help with? What was that kind of? I imagine
anything
graphics maybe, because they're really smooth. I don't know. Do you have background in that?
No. So the graphics, like all of the visual stuff and the programming I did myself. And everything that you hear is I got an Italian composer, Daniele Coppola, who made the awesome soundtrack.
It is a great soundtrack.
Yeah, I love it. And also with the next update, the 1.1 update, the music is extended. So like right now, I think in the 1.0 version, the music tracks are like 1 minute 30 seconds, and we extended those to 4 minutes per track.
Nice.
Yeah, it's also, he did a great job with these extended versions, and all the sound design was made by Almut Schwacke, who is actually Berlin based.
Oh, cool.
Which was cool.
Yeah, nice. I'm not surprised something was, you need help with everything.
Yeah,
involved.
I would have loved to get into all of these because I literally love everything about game development.
Yeah.
So like even as a teenager, I would go like into like 3D graphics programs and 2D graphics programs, and I wanted to learn programming. And at some point, the thing is, it's not only that you're not going to have the expertise and you become really good, but for any of those topics, there's a lot of information that you need to keep in your brain, and once you switch to a completely different field, that other stuff leaves your brain, at least my brain. and so you always, anytime you switch, there's this long process of how did I do this again? So I'm writing down so much. And at some point I thought, like, music I could never get well enough so that I wouldn't hate listening it or like I wanted people to listen to nice music.
Yeah, I think that's really smart for a game like this, where you don't really notice it until you're stuck on a level, but then it's really nice when you're like, that's when it really starts to become obvious. I mean, you obviously hear it, but you're kind of like focused, you're figuring it out, and then sometimes you just need to take a moment and pause, and you hear nice music, and you're like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really good thing to have, like, to make sure that it's something that you're happy with and you're pleased with. I think that was a great choice.
Yeah.
I'm still just overwhelmed though that you did the graphics, because they're really good. I mean,
oh, thank you.
To me, it screams someone who's done this before. Did you dabble in that before? I know you mentioned you sort of did stuff as a hobby. Yeah.
Not really. I just always liked making nice looking stuff, and I read some books on design, and I follow artists and like watch tutorials, and so there's several different styles going on, right? You have the 3D part, which is like this really actually a fun story. I made those graphics. These 3D models were intended as placeholder initially. I really quickly like sketched them in Blender, which is my 3D modeling tool. And at some point I thought, maybe this could actually be the aesthetic. And then I had to figure out like all the other buildings in a similar style, and that was extremely like fast.
Wow.
The thing that took a long time and a lot of practice to get into was the vector graphics things, like the chapter artwork. Right, there's one picture for each of these chapters. Those took a lot longer than I thought. Like sometimes, like I would finish one piece in one day.
Wow.
As crazy as it sounds.
Well, it doesn't sound that crazy to me because art is intimidating, but it came out great. So clearly you did things right.
I'm glad that people like it.
Yeah.
Also, even the logo was like the second iteration. The first iteration, I don't even want to show to anybody because it's so ugly. And somehow, then I had some idea. Maybe this is the direction I could try, and then I tried it out, and it worked out. Luckily.
Wow. I feel like the majority of people I see designing games are not like, it's either, you know, so last time we did this, we spoke to Volnor Golf Party, so his is very different. It was, you know, done in Unreal, purchasing assets and sort of putting them around, and sometimes they had some people create stuff on the outside. This is a whole different ball game. This stuff, I don't know. I'm just very, very impressed that you did so much. I mean, think about all the different things that go into game dev: coding, sound, graphics, just how it works, like how to make the gameplay happen. It's very impressive to me that you were able to do this while also balancing a full-time job. What was it like trying to manage your time to keep up with this?
Yeah, good question. So I keep so one thing that really helps me a lot is I very early, even during my time in university, when I worked in university, I made this habit of journaling. So basically I write down every thought I have, and that really helps me if I have to switch between topics, and I can just go back and see like all my notes, or like links to tutorials that got me into something. And so the time management aspect, I actually, because I had nobody, and which was awesome, by the way, it's the most awesome thing about doing stuff on your own, is nobody can tell you what to finish until when. I hate this. If you have like a deadline, and because somebody asks you, you have to tell me a deadline now, and then you say some arbitrary date, and then you have to make like cut what you want to do. I could just every day on Friday, I would just sit down and like, what does the game need right now? Okay, so apparently I am working on shaders for the water. Okay, so that's what I did for the next couple of Fridays. Sometimes I was also working like after hours, after the day job, or during the weekends. And yeah.
Wow. So it sounds like you kind of started at a baseline, and then you built it up over time. So maybe it was usable at the beginning, but you just had to refine. That was kind of your process.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, luckily the style, I mean, by design, the style is so simple that I didn't need so many iterations. So if you think about like these AAA games, they iterate a lot, like especially in Animal Crossing. I mean, I don't know anybody who works on this game, but I imagine like any asset that you see probably went through dozens of iterations.
Yeah.
It's that crazy. And for me, it was, well, if the first time didn't work, well, the next time or the third time maybe works, and then once I'm happy, it's good. It's no art director like saying, "Oh my god, this doesn't fit."
And it does fit. It worked out.
I hope so.
I know, because one of the things I was going to ask you, which you already answered, was like essentially like how many iterations did it go through for the graphics, like for that for the houses and everything. It sounds like not that many, because I would have expected a lot, honestly.
Like the models were surprisingly quick. I iterated a bit on the shaders because initially I used the Unity standard shaders and they kind of look boring. So I wanted to have something that I have more control over the colors, really. And once I had that, it's it's very, very lucky that everything is so kind of like a simple style where you can very quickly identify what's wrong and just fix it, and then it's fine.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Well, kind of on a similar topic, you were mentioning earlier, like everything you did was sort of to get to learn more, and that's why you put it on a lot of platforms. So, how did you approach making sure the game would function well, whether it be aesthetically or on the back end, both on a mobile device as well as on a PC? Because I did not realize initially that it was also on mobile, but it's really smooth, and I can see how well it would transfer.
Yeah. Well, initially I built it for PC. And when I went into production mode, so I like the very first thing I did was release like an free alpha version to itch.io, which I got really like positive feedback for, but it has like it looks a little rough around the edges, right? It has absolutely no sound, and one of the first feedbacks I got was this would work very well on mobile, and I thought like, yeah, true. It's like drag and drop is kind of natural to touch input. Code-wise, it was a different topic because implementing all the pinch to zoom gestures and so on was very, very different from mouse and keyboard input. And on touch, for example, you can't do this thing like where you hover your mouse cursor over a building and it like shows you something. That's not really something you can do with touch. So I had to figure some things out, and I think to a lesser degree, some usability had to be sacrificed because, for example, you can't. So if you play in portrait mode, sometimes dragging the screen is very narrow, and if you have to drag sideways, then I mean that's why I made the game so that you can rotate the screen. You can play in both portrait and landscape rotation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. It's nice that you did that. Although I feel like I would need to stay landscape for this. I can't really imagine playing it. I feel like I'd have to constantly be moving around trying to figure stuff out.
I know, but I've heard, and actually that's true, that a lot of people really only want to play in portrait mode because it's really nice, comfortable. You can just play one-handed on the bus, and I totally get that, and that's why I wanted to support both.
Yeah, that's really cool. So once you had everything done, you'd figured everything out, how did you approach getting the game published and kind of starting to market the game?
Good question. So I knew, so since my alpha version was on PC, I then decided, okay, so what's the biggest learning for me would be completely different input type, right? Like this touch interface. So I thought, okay, let's make an iPhone version, and I wanted to, because I'm also like Apple user and iPhone user, so it was kind of natural to just try to get it onto the App Store. And I had no idea initially how that works, because you have to set up all this account, and then you have to like found a company, like a legal entity that you can put there, and it's very different from Steam, because especially with premium games, so you see all these ads for mobile games, right? And they are always free games, because the whole market works, get as many players as possible into the free game, which works because like you show a lot of ads, people see, oh, the app is free, and they download it, and so immediately you have 1 million users. And then you monetize inside the game, and since I didn't want that, that's not actually an approach that you can viably do. So that's what I had to learn. I didn't know this in advance, but if you have a premium game priced around like $2 to $3, it's complete waste of money having ads for this, because you're going to spend much more on showing the ads to somebody than you're going to get back in terms of money. And but luckily on the App Store, Apple does a lot of curating, and so basically that does the marketing for you in a way. which is really cool. It's much more so than on Steam, for example.
Yeah, I feel like Steam gets flooded and it's so hard. I feel like I see the same games over and over sometimes, probably because of their version of curation, but there are thousands and thousands of thousands I never see.
Yeah. Exactly. So they do everything by algorithm, and it works. Like sometimes you get recommended really cool games, but a lot of the time, yeah, as you said, you get recommended kind of the same thing you've seen, and then on, I don't know, on some cool YouTube channel, you see somebody play some game. Wow, this looks really awesome, and like, why did Steam never recommend this to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like discoverability is completely different. So on if you release on Steam, you're kind of reliant on having some traction already, like press attention or YouTubers or streamers playing the game. Yeah.
Did you find that was helpful? I've heard very mixed things. I've heard that used to be a lot more practical and a lot more helpful, and now it's more not a lot of return for the investment when people play the game, unless they bought it themselves.
You mean like a Let's Plays? Or
Let's Plays, reviews, anything basically where people are putting out content about it. I feel like I've heard mixed things.
Yeah, it really depends on the game, I think, because if you have a game that is infinitely replayable, like RimWorld, or
oh yeah,
I don't know, like Islanders, for example, where you have like procedurally generated content, then it can be really, really good, because people see this and say, I want to try this. But if you have a story-based game, well, you've seen the story kind of already, so what's the point of playing the game again, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can see kind of, maybe someone could do just the first iteration of levels or like individual ones, but once you see the solution, I mean, you might forget the solution. I will say I went back and I did some, and I definitely did not remember the solution. But
I can't remember them either, so...
Okay. So I guess it's not that big of an issue then, and I feel like when you're just watching a stream, you're not really trying to solve the puzzle, you're just watching the person squirm.
Yeah, I think Puzzle Pelago is probably not the most Let's Play, because it also has this like set amount of content.
Right.
And like usually you don't watch people solve puzzles, right? It's not that often. So the most entertaining games usually are like, I don't know, you have some sort of action or like emergent storytelling or something like this. And yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So looking back on your journey creating Puzzle Pelago, I know you already mentioned automation. Outside of automation, what's one thing that the next time you make a game, what's one thing you think you might approach differently? Whether it be a program or a strategy or the order of which you do things, what do you think you'd do differently?
Get feedback, and player. Watch people play the game much earlier and way more. So one thing so there's a service where basically you can submit your app, and they will then submit this app to volunteer players who record their screen and their voice, and they say what they think, and you can basically watch them play your game. Like a Let's Play, but they get paid for this. And when I did this, I realized how difficult my initial set of tutorial levels was. This is probably something that I need to iterate a lot more on the next project. I kind of designed a set of tutorial levels, and I watched a lot of friends play the game.
Yeah.
But I forgot to factor in that a lot of my friends are gamers.
Yeah.
And like really like puzzle games and play this kind of thing really quickly. And then you think, oh great, my tutorial series is great. And then you see somebody who is like a much more casual player, and you see how they absolutely struggle with something. By the way, this is also something that I didn't expect, how hard it is to watch somebody play your game the first time. Oh my god.
I can only imagine. It's like it's your baby and they're judging it and
why are they playing it wrong?
Oh,
yeah.
no.
It's really a skill that you have to learn to watch somebody play without interfering with them and without getting nervous and just analyzing like why are they struggling, or is it too easy, or why is it too easy, or none of this thing. Just the same with communicating. So one of the toughest things about Puzzle Pelago was, how do I communicate to people that they have to drag stuff next to each other? That's usually you don't do that in games.
Yeah.
And all the stuff and like the initial UI I had people really confused apparently. Yeah. So iterating is really good with these things.
Yeah.
Very early on.
Wow. It makes sense. That makes sense. It's hard to disconnect your emotions from something you've created. I mean, it's not easy. Trust me. Content makes you feel that way for sure. It's a little different because you're not having someone have to like do anything with the content, but with the feedback gets to you sometimes. It's hard to kind of accept it and just do what you need to do to move forward.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's also very strange when you have it's this kind of thing where you know exactly what somebody needs to do, and they just it's like you see like to you you see the solution, right? You see, you just have to do this one thing. Why aren't you doing this one thing? Because you see something that the other person doesn't, and that is very hard to get used to remind yourself, oh yeah, right, that's because anytime you see something like this is perfect information for you as a game designer and level designer.
Yeah. So was there ever any point throughout the process of making this game where you were ready to sort of like just stop and give up, or do you feel like you were motivated the whole way through?
There was one point. So my whole problem was every week I had one day to work on the game, which was a Friday, which is like the lowest energy point of the week, obviously.
Yeah.
So and sometimes, so one time, I think 1 week I was sick on Friday or like over the weekend, and so I couldn't work on the game. Then the week after that, we went to a wedding, and so every time you miss a week, that means, or like miss this one day, it's like a whole week of development that is just gone.
Yeah.
And the longer time you have between sessions on working on your game, the more strange and foreign this whole thing becomes.
Yeah.
And so the next time you sit down to work on your project, most of your energy is just spent figuring out what the hell you are doing. And that can be really frustrating because you're just sitting there, you're not producing anything.
Yeah.
It's so there was one point where I almost gave up, but actually I expected to struggle more. It was kind of fascinating how motivating the whole process was of like getting a positive feedback and then having this huge success on the App Store. So Apple featured the game early on.
Wow.
Like, it's the craziest thing. It's the reverse of what you have on Steam. On Steam, you get the sales spike right when you release the game. Usually, you can have some afterwards, but usually that's how it goes. On the App Store, I released the game and then crickets. It was like 10 people downloaded the app because I told them about it, like friends and colleagues and everything. It's like, I expected more. And then the week afterwards, so Apple, like once a week, changes the games it features on the App Store, and then it suddenly, in several countries at the same time, it featured Puzzle Pelago.
Wow.
And I checked out the numbers the next day and was like, what? It was like a huge sales spike, and it was really exciting.
Yeah, this is the kind of game that if I, without any context, this is the kind of game I would probably purchase on my phone. Like it's just that smooth style. Puzzle games are perfect for mobile. I mean, perfect. Yeah. You can do them anytime, standing in line. Puzzles, sitting on your bed. Puzzles. It's great. That's really nice. Wow. That's got to be motivating after having all those times of like, is this really worth it? But then to have it have so
Yeah,
much success
exactly.
there. Yeah.
It was very validating.
Oh, that's awesome.
But also, I mean, like throughout the whole process, I kept showing the game to people, and I got so much positive feedback, and it was really motivating. Also, Twitter was a huge thing. So I tried posting all these development updates all the time, and
Yeah.
got a lot of followers, and it was quite exciting.
Yeah. That's really cool. So, you know, I would love to know if you could pick one game, what game would you love to learn from the developers of that you think would really bring a new understanding of the environment? And it could be any kind of game. It could be Candy Crush for all I care.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
So let's
developers.
Say, yeah. Like if you could learn from the developers of like the Civ series, or if you could learn from the developers of what game would
so
you
the game design insights.
Oh yeah. I'm bringing the heavy hitters. Listen, I gave you a chance to know what I was gonna ask. He said, no, let's just go for it.
I think probably the guys who made FTL and Into the Breach, like subset games, I think.
Yeah. Okay, wait. I know Into the Breach. I don't know if I know the name FTL.
FTL is the one with the spaceships, where you have these spaceship fights and you travel from star to star. And I've been obsessing with this game recently and analyzing the game design. And it's an amazing game. I would really love to know their process of. I think I have an idea what their process probably was, and like some parts I actually know because they talked about it in the podcast. But you don't know this for the whole game design, and that would be really, really cool to know.
Yeah.
Because they are very innovative with using like mechanics that you don't usually see. Like both their games have this kind of quality where it's kind of weird that you've never seen these mechanics in games before, or at least not that much, and then they're put into this brilliant game that you can just replay over and over and over.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that's a great idea. They also they're just kind of, there's something really unique, especially Into the Breach. Like, so I haven't played it, but there's something about the graphics that's just surprisingly like really intriguing and pleasing about them.
It's very crisp, very they really know how to make a readable game. Also FTL is the same way, where all the way they designed their UI perfectly fits into the game, right? You always have this, I mean, when you have a game can be viewed completely abstract, and if you just remove all the graphics and you just have the rules, then you ask yourself, like, how do I display this? And so you usually also have like this component of the story or the setting, right? And FTL, it's you're the spaceship and you're trying to get to the last sector, like escaping from the rebels. And this they're really good at letting all of this inform all the design decisions of how all the UI elements look like, and how the game controls, and it's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Well, we're definitely coming up towards the last few questions, so I do have stuff, but just a reminder to people watching, if anything comes to mind, feel free to ask. But like I said, don't worry.
By the way, I'm really sorry I didn't read chat, so I'm a terrible multitasker.
You're fine. You're fine. Nothing. We're all good. It's mostly people yelling at me that they want me to interview Harrison Ford because of Indiana Jones. We ignore them.
Yeah. The best indie.
So, yes. So if there are people in chat who are interested in getting into game design, what's one piece of advice you would give them that you wish you had known? Or, I mean, it doesn't have to be the perfect advice.
Huh. Oh God, I'm so new at this myself. So
No, but that's perfect because you have just enough experience that you know there's a lot you still got to learn from, but
Yeah.
you know enough to know where some of those challenges come into play.
I think the main thing is to always prototype and have people play this, because it usually the game designs. So with Puzzle Pelago it was a bit different because the concept was kind of simple enough for me to. I mean, I had a vague idea that this could work, and then I tried it out, and I could see it myself that it works. But the more complex your game design gets, the more reliant you are on seeing how this actually plays when people don't know the game yet.
Yeah.
Other than that,
Yeah, because if you wait too long and there's something significant that you realize needs to be changed, then you might have to do a lot of backtracking. That would be
exactly. So if you design your whole game and then on the last day, like before release, like maybe you should have somebody try this, then it's just going to get so expensive to change everything. That's one thing I can also, like, if somebody wants to make hobby projects or something like this, try to fail fast, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, figure out the points that could possibly go wrong and be expensive to, for example, I don't know, you haven't finished your game design yet and you're making all these graphical assets, and then you realize when you change your game design that now you need completely different assets.
Yeah.
I really heavily planned everything so I wouldn't have to do everything twice or 3 times, because I just couldn't have afforded it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely good advice. I think that's something that people don't really think about. So
yeah,
nice. So you've kind of answered this, but maybe you can go in more depth. You can go ahead and read it if
you want. How do you find the ideas for your games? Asks Micro.
Yeah.
No, it hasn't been asked. So every game designer is probably completely different. So for me, I, coming from a physics background, I'm like the analytical type. So I like analyzing games, finding out like the smallest components that they use. And so I have 2 approaches. One thing is take a game design and see what you could change and what happens if you change the game design. So, for example, what would happen if in Animal Crossing, right, you have everything is on a grid, right? Even if you drop something, it always falls on a grid. So what would happen if you just use extremely realistic physics? Would this be fun? Would this change the game meaningfully?
Yeah.
What would happen if you have HP and there were enemies? Just identifying, like, would this bring you, like, what is the design goal? And in Animal Crossing, you're just peaceful. Having enemies that shoot at you, probably not peaceful. Anyway, either do this, take a game design and iterate, and sometimes you get some completely new concept out of it. Like with Puzzle Pelago, because the basis was really, really, really simple. It was really fun to have some completely new game out of it, just by changing a few rules. And the other thing is to construct the game. So I usually start with the game mechanics first. So usually I only have one game. sounds a bit ridiculous, but for my next games, it's actually the same. It's true. Also, I try to think of like very, very simple. I build up. I start with a very simple fundamentals. Like, okay, you have a grid, and you have units that you can move on the grid. And the next thing is, okay, now what happens if we add the rule that you can only move, I don't know, by this rule? And at some point, you might find something that is interesting, and after that, you can figure out like what is this game really? Is this, like with Puzzle Pelago, it was kind of late that I realized, oh, this is actually a bit like an economy, right? With where chains, where you have this, you drag from resources, and you like produce more advanced goods. This wasn't initially this wasn't my starting point, but I added this as a theme, and I actually can recommend doing that, starting with the game design and finding out what it is about. I think Mario, for example, is a famous example where this happened kind of similarly, where they had this platformer and then they figured out what should stuff look like.
Yeah.
And they didn't set out to make a game about a plumber initially, right?
And yet, here we are. The beloved plumber.
Yeah.
So,
the best plumber. Weirdly, you never see Mario really do any plumbing, right?
He likes to get down the pipes, but you don't see him working on them. He's just hanging out. Is that what plumbers do in their free time? They just hang out with pipes.
He's just sort of looking at them, yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, great. That's actually really interesting that it went about that way. So Devin was asking. So first of all, Devin, just as a reminder, Christopher did this game himself. So when you say developers, it's the developer.
Yeah.
But you kind of mentioned this before, that you really hand did the puzzles, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So for Puzzle Pelago, I made myself a level editor and designed all the levels because, this is another thing that I can recommend, which seems to be a recipe for success, is try to come up with a game design that's where you can auto-generate levels. Because it turns out making levels can be really, really difficult. And just recently, I think yesterday, Dorfromantik was released. Have you heard about this?
Oh, yes. I love Dorfromantik.
It looks awesome. And it's completely procedural. You have infinite replayability because every time, the order of the tiles is different, and you just generate your puzzle differently. Really cool design.
I did not know that came out today. I played the yeah, you're right. Well, yesterday, but essentially, yeah. I played this a little bit in my free time, guys. It was kind of like a limited demo, so I was like, I'll probably play the full game when it comes out. But no, yeah, I think if you guys like this type of minimalistic style, like you mentioned Islanders earlier, which I think falls in the same kind of category, I think it's a really good idea. I love that procedural element to it. I just love these kind of games. They're so pretty.
The fun thing is, now be ready to have your mind blown. I think there's now 4 games out that I know of, which are by a German developer. Kind of a puzzle game themed around city building.
Wow.
Even I think the Dorfromantik guys are even from Berlin, just like the Islanders guys.
Wow. What is it with that city?
I don't know. I actually met the one of the guys who made Islanders, and we realized that, wait a second, we have both island themed city building puzzle games, and actually even worse, even funnier is Islanders and the iOS version of Puzzle Pelago released on the same day.
Ha!
Can't make shit up like this.
It's That's so cool. Hey, if you can get me in, if you want to recommend them, come on, you know.
I'm not much in contact with them, but I'm sure they would love to.
That's so cool. It's you know what's been very intriguing as I've been really getting into this area of game dev, and I know we said an hour, so if you need to cut things off, please don't hesitate. But I just find it very interesting that once you get into a certain area of game dev Twitter, everyone knows each other. It seems like I come across I'll follow someone and then I see them liking posts from another game that I follow. It's just very interesting how I like it becomes a bit of a community. It's very cute. I like that.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And but I'm still astonished how every day still I browse and this is a new account I've never seen before, and apparently there's already 2,000 posts attached to this, and it's it's a game that Twitter is really fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and Irish said did you did you talk to other game devs when you were making your game, or were you kind of like doing your own thing?
No, I actually like the first feedback on the first prototype of Puzzle Pelago I got during a game jam.
Oh.
By the way, this is awesome. Like pre-COVID, there was this really cool culture of mini jams. So once a month there was an 8-hour game jam on a Saturday, and so you could just go there, meet new people every time. Like every time it was like 20% people who are very frequently there and 80% completely new people.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so I showed the prototype there, and then we talked about like some aspects of the game design, and there's a lot of playtesting going on. Like, hey, do you want to test my new prototype? And it's really cool.
Yeah, that's really nice to have that opportunity to do it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh. Yeah, I think you mentioned at the beginning. You said your favorite games: Animal Crossing, Civ. Do you have a favorite Civ game? If you had to
I
pick.
think 6, like the latest one, probably.
Do you have what? I didn't ever get the DLC for 6. I feel like I probably need to. I like 5.
I actually probably haven't either, like all of them. I think.
Yeah.
I don't remember. The thing is, when Civ 5 was released, it was basically not really that interesting until all the DLC was there. With Civ 6, the first version already was so good. Like all the systems and yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
But probably my favorite Civ is XCOM 2. No, it's by the same company, like Firaxis, right? And
Right.
But XCOM 2 is like one of my long-term favorites. It's such a brilliant game. Like the way they integrate, like everything plays nicely together, like the game design and the setting, and it plays really nicely.
Yeah, you're gonna hate me. I've actually never even touched the game. I don't think I've ever even seen.
I can totally recommend it.
I probably should. If I
it's
like
very
Civ,
different.
Then I feel like I would like the same design, like the same company that worked on it.
It's very different. It plays very, very differently, and it has this kind of roguelike quality to it, where you get really attached to building up, like to every soldier on your team, and then you have this one mission where you just lose 3 of them, and it's like, oh no. And then your run of 10 hours is over, and you have to start over. But it's so badass. Like all the animations they added to like when your soldiers like shoot at the aliens.
Yeah.
And like the action animations, like people jumping through windows, and it's really really cool. For a strategy game, it's pretty action heavy.
Well, I do want to wrap it up and respect your time, but where can people find more information about Puzzle Pelago? Where can they find the game, and where can we find you online?
So the best place for information about Puzzle Pelago is probably puzzlepelago.com and my Twitter at Hallgrim Games. And yeah, those are probably the best places.
Great. Well, guys, I do
thank you.
highly recommend. I highly recommend you check it out. So it's on iOS and Android.
iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I highly recommend it. And guys, I am actually going to be giving away a copy right after this. So I will buy it for you. But we gotta make sure that I can, because sometimes they get really stupid about different countries. So we'll do our best for y'all in chat.
Okay.
And yeah, we'll probably go ahead and we'll watch the trailer after this wraps up too, so that they can just really see what it is. If y'all missed my Tuesday stream, which why would you do that? Because we were playing the game. Anyways, any final thoughts before we wrap up though? This has been a really fun conversation.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I think it's a really cool concept. It's weird that I don't. It's a like. I was when you suggested doing this, is like, I don't see much content like this. Like, right? I love usually watching interviews with other devs. So that's really cool.
It's
And I
hearing
would
that? I feel like people have told me it's overdone, and I'm like, I don't see it.
Really?
So I'll carve out my own
Okay.
little section of the internet for my own, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. Well, great. Well, thank you again so much. I do really appreciate you spending time. This has been so intriguing, and every time I do one of these, my head kind of explodes. So you can expect this to be up on YouTube soon, and then I'll also push out some clips. Yay.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you again, Christopher.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. This is their Steam page, by the way. I gotta leave a review. Leave reviews for the games you like. Turn up the music. Yeah. This looks very intimidating, and I am scared for those.
How do you
chaotic ones.
rebuild a devastated archipelago?
Let me move.
Step 1. Gather any available resources.
I love this trailer.
Step 2. Process the resources into goods. Step 3. Combine multiple resources or goods to create even more advanced goods.
I'm jamming.
Step 4. Make sure the goods required by the islanders are produced right next to their homes.
Yeah, I don't want to have to drive somewhere to get my shit.
Step 5. And don't forget that on these islands, paths must not cross. Well,
So fucking good.
are you up to the task? Find out in Puzzle Pelago.
So good. So good.